Ina. Our next presenter, also from Oregon, Charles Campbell is a junior at the University of Oregon Chinese Flagship program, majoring in economics. Charles had an internship this past summer with the Home Health and Care Group and worked with the company to apply for their initial public offering in China. At the University of Oregon, he works with Chinese students in business and leadership groups to help them communicate their ideas. Charles also spearheaded a University of Oregon service learning project, bringing used textbooks from Beijing to rural schools in Hunan. He plans to study in the Chinese Overseas Flagship program at Nanjing University next year. His presentation is titled, Water is the New Oil.
Well, thank you for the introduction, and I'd like to just start by telling everybody how much it's been nice to get to know everybody, make it through friends, and really bounce ideas off each other. Yesterday I learned an incredible amount about everything. So, as the title, today I'll present Water is the New Oil, which combines three topics that I'm extremely passionate about. Oops, here it is. Water scarcity, the global economy, and China. My hope is that by the end of this quick 10 minutes, you'll be able to feel the same buzz that I have for the world's water scarcity crisis. 淡水资源已经逐渐超过石油，成为21世纪最紧缺的资源。这个严峻现实与国家安全息息相关，也因而影响到全球各国领导人在地缘政治、经济发展及环境问题等各方面的决策。第一世界国家总是相当的认为，清洁的淡水资源取之不尽，用之不竭。然而，水资源短缺，等一下啊，不好意思，对，早已深刻改变世界，经济格局所产生的巨大影响，遍及农业、工业及能源生产领域。淡水短缺问题迫在眉睫，正如上世纪80年代的石油危机，如果我们不能有效解决，将造成全球各国家地处间的摩擦，最终引发武装冲突。淡水是与经济与石油一样重要，却因为其独而就不可替代性，比石油更可为贵，是人未来发展最关键的环节。发展中国家，尤其是中国，在工业化及全球化进程中，开始更多的关注到这一问题。中国经济的飞速发展，城市化进程形成所必须的资源需求，以日益显著的水资源供求矛盾，更加注了水资源供给的压力。为了更好地参与中国环保事业的发展，特别是水污染问题，我协助成立了俄勒冈大学中国青年慈善领袖会。Okay, so first I'd like to start out, are you guys aware that 750 gallons of water go into just making one dress shirt? For any of you that have tried the gallon challenge, you'll know that that is a ton of water. And so I'd like you to consider this throughout the rest of the presentation for a little perspective on the usage of water. So, as I just mentioned, or I guess for those of you who made the decision, or smart enough decision not to study Chinese, today I'll touch on three major topics. First, the Tibetan Plateau, and how it is the source of fresh water in the Asia subcontinent. Second, the effect that China's global water scarcity will have on the global economy. And third, how I've really accepted this reality and decided to take action through the formation of the Chinese Philanthropic Leadership Association. As the title suggests, oil has driven the modern world to such an extent that it isn't unreasonable to call the 20th century the oil century. The global economy has really depended on its growth. But we're transitioning into our next stage of development, which won't be a struggle for who has the most oil reserves. It'll be the struggle for fresh water. With world population expected to reach 9 billion by 2050, and only 2.5% of the water on Earth being fresh, the challenges are enormous. Of this 2.5% that is fresh, only 30.3% is available for human use. The pie keeps getting smaller and smaller. Theoretically, we can live without oil, but we can't live without water. So these macroeconomic statistics put the world's water situation into context, but you really might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with China? That is China, and that is the Tibetan Plateau. As you can see, it is the headwaters to many of the major rivers that source the Asia subcontinent and Southeast Asia. Countries that rely on these supply of waters are at huge potential risk for fresh water. Countries include Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Laos, Myanmar, Pakistan, Thailand, and Vietnam. Just take a look at the amount of proposed dam projects on or near the Tibetan Plateau. This will grant China power not only from an energy perspective, but from a geopolitical and military perspective as well. The pressure caused on these countries due to China's ability to command the water supply could all lead to potential disputes over fresh water and potential military conflict. These issues will all need to be addressed much sooner than we think. So the Tibetan Plateau gives us a basic understanding of Chinese water supply. I would now like to focus in on the demand side of the equation. China accounts for 20% of the world's population, roughly 1.3 billion residents. That's a potentially lot of thirsty people, especially when you take into consideration the ever-rising standard of living that the Chinese people are experiencing. But one might think that the Chinese people account for a large amount of water consumption, but here you'll find China's water consumption in 2009. 85% of their water consumption comes from agriculture and industry. So what does this tell us about the overall economy? It's that the economy runs on water. But we think to ourselves, what does this have to do with us? Many of the exports to the United States come from a variety of sectors, and many of which rely on water in their generation and processing. Sectors include power generation, mining, electronics, agriculture, paper, and textiles. They're intimately tied to the fresh water supply. Just think back to our 750-gallon t-shirt. As the supplies of these water begin to decrease, so it's a really broad range of sectors. I'd like to focus in on power generation. It is the largest use of industrial water and one of the main reasons why I consider water the new oil. Nuclear and coal generation both rely on power to operate, namely through cooling mechanisms and steam-operated turbines. Many of us don't realize that no water equals no thermal power. In China, 95.6% of their hydro and thermal power is their installed capacity in 2012. And their electricity production capacity is expected to increase dramatically in the near future, nearly doubling from 2011 to 2012. And the Ministry of Water Resources predicts that if China carries on with business as usual, the supply of water won't meet the demand of water by 2030, impacting the supply and demand of global goods that we really take for granted. It'll mean to more expensive products and really a greater impact on all of our wallets. Now, we now have a basic understanding of China's water crisis on the supply side and the demand side on a macro level. But what can we as students or small groups of students do to make a difference? These same questions led me to the formation of the Chinese Philanthropic Leadership Association in 2011, which currently is a student group which I hope is soon going to be a nonprofit. We're working on it. That exists of 30 Chinese international students and myself, the only non-native speaker. In 2011, we successfully implemented our first project, TWEET, Transforming Waste into Empowerment, which basically took educational materials from, it wasn't Beijing, from urban cities to rural cities in southern China, and we really focused in on education and waste management. However, our focus has shifted, mostly because of me, And we decided to focus in on environmental issues, specifically water scarcity in southern China. In 2012, we'll implement our project called Healthy Home, Healthy Planet, empowering rural communities by enabling access to safe drinking water while reducing fuel consumption. I know that's a mouthful, and it took me forever to remember what it was, but we're really, really excited about it. We'll spend 4 weeks in Hunan, China, working with local organizations and communities to reduce water pollution, make drinking water more accessible, and educate the rural communities how individual households really can make a difference. This will be done through collaborative efforts with Hunan University, and we'll promote the concept of rainwater harvesting, which we'll do through building a few prototypes and really stressing its benefits, as rainwater is a huge resource that most people don't use. And we'll also be experimenting with WAPIs, which essentially are affordable, efficient indicators to let you know when water is safe to drink after boiling. They're about yay big. I was gonna bring some to pass out, but it's too heavy for the plane. So all this we'll be doing while simultaneously conducting research on the Xinjiang River in Hunan, which is one of the most heavily polluted rivers in China. And really our goal is to just use every penny of fundraising to really continue to push for a better China and address these water shortages in Hunan. So whether through the Tibetan Plateau conflicts or the global economy, we'll come to a point where China's water risk affects all of our lives, as consumers, as professionals, and ultimately as citizens. And all of us gathered here today can use our understanding of language and culture to go out and really make a difference. So my personal challenge for you is similar to what we believe at CPLA, is never be satisfied with the present, because in your mind, you can see a better future. And that friction between what is and what could be burns you, stirs you up, and propels you forward. So thank you for your time, and I'll accept any questions.